For years, I believed weed was helping me. I worked in the cannabis industry and I knew the products well, knew the science, the culture, the people involved in it. But the longer I stayed around it, the more I noticed things nobody wanted to talk about. And like most people, I thought that it was a really good thing and something positive for my life stance. I mean, I used it on good days, bad days, and I never really felt any sort of indifference on what I was doing when it came to using it with my body and the decisions that I made. And unfortunately, it kind of shaped a lot of bad decisions that I ended up following through with instead of making good decisions like I am now when it comes to not being on it. And there's a pretty big assumption as what weed is used for, and the reason being that I had it in my life was because I believed that it was truly a stress relief at the time. I felt that it was something I could use for relaxation, for better sleep, social acceptance, and even industry messaging. So I could just put forward some sort of insight to the customers that I had in the industry. But I was far from wrong. And at first it felt harmless, but in fact it was beneficial at the time. And everyone around me talked about all the good things about it, so I kind of figured I was fitting in. But that's not exactly what you always want to do when it comes to being involved with any sort of drug industry, is fitting in. I'm sure a lot of crackheads could probably make you feel like you're part of their circle too if you were on the same substance as them. But this is where things just kind of put me off. Was I wasn't feeling comfortable in a sense that I was accepted. I was feeling uncomfortable in a sense that I wasn't being myself. And I started having brain fog that became normal, so I was losing all mental clarity and I wasn't really building any sort of like lifestyle choices that were beneficial for me. Instead, I was building a codependency that I needed weed to feel relaxed. And that made me more and more stressed and less comfortable with being in my own skin. And instead of solving problems, I would end up just getting high. But that's where the real issues lied underneath all of the use and all of the abuse that I had when it comes to my experience with this entire substance was I didn't think that weed was ruining my life. I was just comfortable with how it made me feel the same. And that's not exactly where you want to be, especially when you're growing out of your teens into your 20s and eventually, unk status like 30s, 40s, and further beyond is staying the same because we're meant to change. It's most likely for the better over time that we do change. And that's exactly what I was looking to do was make a different choice in my life so that I felt like I was growing as a person, mentally, socially, and altogether spiritually. And quite frankly, working in the industry gave me an entirely different perspective on it. Even though I was in it for years upon years, I didn't start to realize it until I actually started kind of dropping my daily use of it. And that was a normal thing for most people, was constantly using it. There were times I would see someone multiple times in the day so that they could pick up multiple different grams or different amounts just so that they could continue going about their day, or even just seeing them on a day to day because I was sometimes working 5, 6, even 7 days in a row at this place. And the work ethic wasn't really fulfilling to me. And I saw all the people that were depending on it and building a tolerance and then complaining about those same things of how they couldn't get that feeling that they got before in the past. And they had been using it for 10, 15, 20 years, and it just gets more and more potent as the industry evolves. That's a huge issue that people don't really want to talk about when it comes to this sort of thing. And I saw how often these concerns were just brushed aside, and people continued spilling all of their money, effort, and even lives into this sort of thing, and not questioning or second guessing any sort of choice that they were making, and then just kind of relying on it making their life better when it quite literally wasn't. And that turns to the point where it all kind of clicked for me. I started realizing that I was building a complete dependency on it, and it was affecting every aspect of my life in almost a near negative way in every sense possible. I was building a lack of discipline. I kept delaying my goals. I lost track of time, it seems. Like, Have you ever been so geeked out of your mind that you don't even realize how fast that time is just going by until you're, 8 or 9 hours away from when you pass smoked or popped that edible and then realize, oh shit, I just wasted the entire day. And that was something that I hated feeling because I wasn't getting any personal growth out of that. It was just kind of like I was wasting time, wasting my days, and wasting my brain power on something that completely negated the function of exactly that. And eventually I had to ask myself one simple question. Was this helping me become the person I wanted to be? And in all the answers that I could come to, it was always no. And this is coming from a sense of medical use in this. And I know there's a huge difference when it comes to medical and recreational use, but let's be real. A lot of people that are using it in a medically legal state are not necessarily using it medicinally. A lot of people are using this as a regular sort of everyday agenda, as if it's like a cigarette or even like comparing it to like nicotine or booze. And that's just insane to me. I heard there was some statistic here in America that more people are commonly using marijuana over alcohol on a day to day use than ever before. I find that just insane to me because if you asked anybody 15, 20 years ago if you thought that weed was ever going to be more commonly used than alcohol, I guarantee you every single person would have laughed at your freaking question and thought you were insane to be even thinking that was a possibility. But here we are now, experiencing that exact threat. And I don't mean threat as if it's going to kill everybody. I mean threat is like we don't know what the future holds when it comes to long term use at high doses like we've been receiving. I mean, can you imagine how fried so many generations are going to be because of normal use? I mean, I've even seen pregnant women going into a dispensary and coming out with a half sack of weed. And I just think, holy crap, that poor child and poor family is not even realizing that this is more than likely going to affect their entire lifetime. And it has lots of science behind it and backing all the negative effects of using while pregnant, but that's beyond what this video topic is about. A huge part for me when it came to quitting was realizing how much more energy and less brain fog that I truly had. I was capable of thinking more clearly, diverging my thoughts into better sentences rather than kind of fumbling into my words and not understanding what my next sentence was going to be. I started building more habits that were entirely more beneficial for me, like going to the gym, drinking so much more water. I gained weight because I was eating more and I had a real appetite, not just relying on a drug to make me feel like I was hungry. And then it ended up not making me hungry. You know, weed's just kind of a weird sort of thing when it comes to being able to take care of yourself. And quitting it just built a level of discipline I've never had before and a level of confidence that I feel like evolved me as a person. And that's even why I'm here making these videos today. I guarantee that if I was still using marijuana, I'd probably be too lazy to even sit down at a computer and edit for 2 to 3 hours or even just record gameplay. I'd end up just frying myself to sleep and then doing it all again the next day. And out of these videos talking on the topic of weed and using it and quitting, it all comes from a sense of how it affected me as a person and what happened to me when it comes to using it. I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but I'm not saying that it's nobody either. It could be you or someone that you know as well that's experiencing or has experienced something similar. And it definitely isn't the worst thing. I know that weed is a lot safer than a ton of other drugs that we've had access to in the past. And that's honestly something I'm grateful for that we can sit down here today and talk about it on a regular basis rather than avoiding it like it's the plague for us to not be able to have the freedom to learn the sciences behind it or even understand it to a level that we know now. And that's something that kind of drew me into the industry as a whole was how it's constantly evolving and always changing in a way that we are figuring out every single time a plant is grown or even when a plant dies. I mean, I've even tried my own home growing before. That didn't turn out too great, but it was an experience nonetheless. And that's something that I find super cool about this sort of thing is that it literally doesn't take a large pharma or a big corporation to be able to build off of. You can quite literally do it in your own closet. And that's something insane to me because we have the powers at hand to be able to do so many things with this that are beneficial, and we need to talk about the things that aren't beneficial as well. And that's something that I'm more than happy to talk about, especially here on this channel, considering my experience in the industry from quitting to using it for so many years and in my own experiences. And if you did stay for this whole video, I really do appreciate all the love and support you guys are providing for my channel. And in the near future, I will be dropping in some little giveaways inside of these videos in the form of Game Pass Ultimate Passes. So do stay tuned in for that and pay really close attention in the next ones for that to be popped in somewhere in the video. And I will catch you guys in the future. Thanks.